Mainly because I got an echo in my ear and not coming off the computer. If y'all hear an echo, it's your fault. Fix your headphones. Yo, but here we go. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, and 3. Yo, this is your boy Gallagher. Welcome to Common Conversations. Today is, I think, Wednesday, and I am sitting at the Presley Post with Jasmine Presley. And so we thought we would collab and do a few things. And one of the things that we talked about as all the things that we're going to talk about we're doing is that we would live stream, right? And kind of do some marketing and some push so folks, one, get to know who we are. And also so that we can just share because the algorithms say if we do video, shit works.
Right.
And so that's the goal. So right now we're streaming on YouTube, we're streaming on Facebook and maybe a couple other places. And then we're going to share again later as well. Usually if you watch the stream, you know I'll throw a bunch of stuff up on the screen. We're not necessarily going to throw a bunch of stuff up on the screen today, so maybe we'll share later, or you're going to have to go to Presley Post website to find out other details. Is that a fair assessment?
Nice, yes.
All right,
absolutely.
dig it. So as we get in there, I know people know who I am a little bit. I'm going to share who I am, but will you do me a favor and tell the viewers, what is Presley Post, and who are you? What do you? Yes.
So my name is Jasmine Presley. I'm the founder and CEO of the Presley Post, and we are a co-working and creative space located off of 8th and Main. So we're downtown in the Museum District, right within walking distance of the Louisville Slugger Museum and the Science Center. Absolutely love the location. We've been here for going on 3 years now, and this is a creative community. We offer tons of business amenities and spaces. Right now, we're streaming live from the creative studio that's in the Post. So it looks cool on the screen, but I wish you could see this real technical, elaborate setup that Miguel got going on.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can take a picture
here.
real quick and throw it on the camera. Zave, let's see how we can do this.
Super legit.
You keep talking. I'm going to do this like this, and then I'm going to throw it on my phone. And then, Zave, can you see this?
So he's got it all set up really nice back here. We've got tons of equipment in our creative studio that our members and our guests can use for their photo shoots, for their video productions and things like that. We've got green screens, projectors, backdrops, light modifiers, all types of stuff, which kind of lends the collaboration that Miguel and I are speaking about today and kind of working on throughout the year. Some of the other spaces that we have at the Post, we've got private suites. So we've got nonprofits who occupy space here and run their offices and their organizations. And we've got photographers, we've got artists, we've got creatives, real estate investors, like a wide variety and very diverse community of entrepreneurs and, again, creatives here. We've got a nice conference room that you can come and do meetings and all that kind of stuff. So
you really cater to everybody.
Basically.
Yeah. So if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, if you're a creative, if you're new to business, old to business,
exactly.
you have a space where they can kind of come in and work some things out. They can have meetings, and you got office space. And I love the studio part. So because you're back here, I see where you can throw a projector up. And you guys know how I stream. If you don't, we kind of elaborate in our streams. And so the fact that you can accommodate that, you really should come in here and take a look. Do you offer tours?
Absolutely. So we do tours. You can actually visit our website at thepresleypost.com and book a tour. You can actually see some photos of the space too, just kind of like a glimpse. You actually have to physically come in to really get a feel for the energy and the community that we have going on down here. But most of our members they have a virtual membership, which means they use the Presley Post as, this is a lot of startups use the Presley Post business address. So that's good to keep your home address private. You can, have a more professional image, and when you're registering your LLC and just having your business mail physically sent here for you to be able to pick it up at your convenience, and that way you can keep everything separate between your business and personal. So,
got you. I can dig it. So is it? Are we allowed to talk about rates? Is it like flat rates? Is it like because you hear about co-working space. Is it affordable? How does that work?
Yes. So a big thing about the Presley Post, what makes us unique is not only the creative community and the local artworks that you'll find throughout the space, but Also that we're very affordable and accessible, especially considering like our prime location in downtown Louisville. So we have membership plans starting from as low as $45 a month. Our private offices start at $500 a month. And again, they're pretty nice sized offices right in the heart of downtown Louisville. You can walk to restaurants, you can walk to the waterfront. So to me, you just can't beat that.
All right, I can dig it. I can dig it. What made you, so let me start with this. So, I mean, a lot of people, if you're new to watching on the stream or if you're new to listen to this, if we throw it up on the podcast later. So, I'm a 17-year-old PR firm who does live streaming, short and long form videography. I'm a published fashion and photojournalist, if you want to approach it in that relationship. I also teach and have been teaching and facilitating business growth and development programs probably for the last, I don't know, almost 20 years, but dedicated. There's a program that I teach here in Louisville called the Power to Prosper for GLI, which is a minority business accelerator. But I've done those kind of things for a really long time. And so I'm curious to, what made you want to get into a co-working space? I mean, in a world where everybody's trying to start a business, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur or solopreneur, this is not for the faint of heart. It's not necessarily easy to do. Success is measured in so many different ways. And I'm going to say you appear to be extremely successful. I see traffic coming in here. I've done a couple of events in here over the last couple of years. But what made you want to get into a co-working space?
Yes, so there were a few different factors. First, I love to tell the story that the Presley Post actually started as a blog in 2019. So it was a blog and website that I created from scratch myself. I was writing different articles on my personal growth journey about personal finance, and I built an online community around that. But while I was at home during COVID, this is like 2019, 2020, COVID smacked us, right? And I'm just at home kind of blogging. It's just like me and my laptop and my kids doing NTI at home. And it was just a feeling of isolation. And I just always had a vision, like, it would be super cool if creators could just come together to connect and create together, share positive stories and narratives with the community. And then I traveled to Washington, D.C. for my 30th birthday. This was still during COVID, but people were starting to get outside a little bit. And I explored their downtown scene, and they had all types of creative spaces down there, like collaborative spaces. And it was just like, dang, I wish we had something like this back home. And then you fast forward, I guess a year later, I had no idea that I would so quickly open up a space of my own, but here we are.
I can dig it. And in a beautiful space it is. So what's next? So we were started. I mean, I want to share because I don't want to be on live too long today because we said we were going to do a few of these.
Yeah.
And so.
And we could talk for hours.
Yes. We got together and started talking about, I mean, was it early last year or late last year about doing some projects together, doing some different workshops, and trying to figure out what was going to be best in the sense of building ecosystems, building business platforms for the community at large. I know I work a lot with minority, that's women, BIPOC community. But, the things that we're going to do is open for everyone. But let's explore this a little bit. Why? I mean, I'm going to let you lead on this, right? Because I know what they are. But what kind of workshops, are we going to do?
Yes. So our first workshop is coming up this summer, June 22nd. That's a Saturday, and it's a business marketing workshop instructed by Miguel. And so just to share a little bit about my entrepreneur journey, marketing is like one of the most important aspects to hone in on in order to generate sales and revenue and kind of keep your brand and name buzzing and keep yourself out there and to engage with your audience and all that type of stuff. And for the first couple years of, I'm just getting to a space, honestly, to where I can have a decent budget for marketing because I've been pretty much doing as much as I can with the smallest budget, which I feel like, to be 100% transparent, probably a lot of startups kind of are experience that same. You don't have such a huge budget to allocate towards, all the things that there is to run a business. But marketing is probably one of the most important, and just learning how to tap into your target market and how to like really work it. I feel like that is really important. And being that this is a community of entrepreneurs, felt like it was a very important collaboration. I worked with Miguel personally sometime last year. And again, we spent like hours just like hammering out different marketing strategies for the Post. And so again, I speak from experience when I say like he's the GOAT.
Let's go.
And it's definitely very an eye-opening experience to work with him, and just kind of opened me up to way more ideas and ways to where I can grow the business. So we just want to be able to share that opportunity with the community at a very affordability and accessibility. I'm really big on that. So we're extending that opportunity for other entrepreneurs, our members, to be able to tap in and learn from Miguel.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And so part of one of the things I do when I do our workshops, I love doing peer-to-peer learning space, right? Because as much as we are experts in our own world, sometimes we don't always know everything. And somebody has a new idea or a new concept, and we can blend and collaborate and grow.
Yes.
But I mean, back to one of the things you said is, and I run across this a lot of my coaching clients. I run across this in some of the programs. Most folks talk about, A, our business is undercapitalized, right? And then B, we're like, we don't know how to get sales, or we don't know how to generate X. And I tell them all the time, like, if you don't have a marketing plan and a marketing strategy, you're missing out on really how you grow your business.
Right.
Marketing is about research. It's not about targeting everybody in a pool. It's really niching down and understanding who your core audience is. So one of the things we do in our workshop is we do the deep dive discovery on who your ideal customer is. So we'll do the geographic, we do the psychographic analytics, we do a competitive analysis, understanding that we're not doing a competitive analysis to mimic your competitor, but to really see what they're doing, right? Are they innovative? Are they doing something uniquely different that differentiates them from everybody else in the market? Sometimes we also look at a competitive scenario so that we can understand pricing, right? A lot of times people get into business or they're like, man, I'm not growing, so I'm going to devalue my business. I'm going to come in at a discounted rate or under market rate. And then what we realize is we're not profitable or we're not growing, right? And instead of looking at it and saying, how do we really run the numbers on our business and really understand how we grow, what makes us profitable, how we're going to generate revenue, and what customers we realistically should be speaking to. So we're going to cover a lot of that. We're going to take I won't say a super deep dive, but we're going to touch through all the different marketing points. We'll talk about some different marketing strategies that we can look at. We'll dive into a little bit about advertising and branding and the difference and how they all play together, because I think that's another part that people misunderstand, so to speak, if I can say that, misunderstand, is that they're like, man, I want to do branding. Cool. Well, what's your marketing strategy?
Right.
Well, I want to do branding. That's my marketing strategy. So, we'll talk about the difference between what branding is, what marketing is, what advertising is, and how they work together. It's kind of like financials, right? People look at it, they're like, I avoid looking at my financial sheets. Like understanding that all three financials, when you put them together, tell the healthiness of your business, right? But separate, they all tell a different story. But you got to put them together and understanding how we read that. And we'll talk a little bit about financials, because the fact of the matter is that we want to have a return on investment. Sometimes when we're running marketing and advertising campaigns, it's not a direct income relationship. Sometimes it's an awareness platform or awareness relationship that you're trying to build. Excuse that. So for folks, they can definitely tune in. They can register. There is a early bird registration, and then there's a late registration. It is in person.
Yep.
So it's not going to be live streamed. We are limiting the amount of seats that can come in.
Yep.
Because there's a lot. We want to make sure that it's an intimate group. People are able to learn and then walk away with a tangible plan or idea of how they're going to walk in what I would consider is the peak season for a lot of industries, which is the third and fourth quarter of this year. And looking at it and saying, how are we going to scale up? How are we going to win?
Exactly. And you can get your tickets at thepresleypost.com. Our early bird special offer ends on April 15th, so you want to grab those tickets as soon as you can. I know, Miguel, you'll also be able to take away from the workshop, like how to, the art of storytelling, and what are some other things?
Yes, we definitely going to do storytelling because I love storytelling. So I'm a videographer, and I think every business, every entrepreneur has a story, right? And so when you think about branding is a lot about what your message is and how
Right.
it's delivered, and same thing with marketing and advertising. So how do we write our campaigns? One of the things that I always do is how do you develop an elevator pitch, right? What is your story in that relationship? A lot of
Yeah,
folks who
elevator
get
pitch.
in and
That's what I
say,
was trying to think.
yeah, no, you're good. So
Very
they talk
involved.
about the elevator pitch, and it's like, oh, we got one, when really you might need one for every service, right? And then one for every product. And then if you are the brand as an individual, you may have an elevator pitch for you, right? And how does that come across? I work with a lot of
What is
political
the elevator
campaigns.
pitch for those who may not know? It's like a 30, is it 30 seconds?
It's typically a 30-second commercial. Yes,
Okay.
it is the who, what, where, why wins, very specific and significantly about a thing, product, service, or person. Absolutely. It's and writing that is really unique. Um, a lot of folks who are studying, they're going to YouTube or whatever, and they're like SEO, and they're trying to understand all of those pieces coming in, keywords, right? What are impact words? What are value words? What is a call to oh man, I forgot what it's called. Call to action. Yeah, thank you over there, Zave. Right. So what is it? And a lot of times we get into these things where we're pitching our business, and we never ask for what we want. Right. So if you're saying,
Right.
hey, go to my website and register for this event, right? Or go to my Facebook, scan the QR code, and register for blah blah blah. Or go to Kroger's because our product is in Kroger's, or our product is in whatever. And a lot of cases too, I see is and I see a lot of this in B2B businesses when they're approaching different corporations, or they're approaching marketing or procurement officers. They're not asking for the business. They're doing discovery sometimes in a sense of they're asking the company what it is that they buy, right? And they'll even do as much sometimes as offering a capacity statement, right? If they have one of those. But they don't ask that buyer. They're not asking the person who has the influence for the business. They're not saying, what is it going to take for me to work with you, right? Are you ready to buy? What's the seasonality of your business? And if I need to follow back up with you, when do I do that? So the elevator pitch is a really dynamic piece, both internally and externally of your business. But it's very strategic. And I think that well done, you'll see wins.
Yes, and it's something that you can, a lot of people are always looking for investors. I know, in order to captivate an investor, you kind of want to have that 30-second elevator pitch initially, and then that's usually what leads you into the follow-up meeting, like how you were saying. So that ask, like, what would you even ask an investor for? So, yeah, I've just thought and worked through a lot of these things over the past year. I was actually in the AMP Business Incubator here in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's how I was gratefully able to work and connect with Miguel last year. So there's just so many aspects of business. What about our other workshops happening this year?
So one of the other workshops we're talking about putting together, and I think this is where our audience could help with this, because we've been going back and forth on this whole thing that we're sitting in now. Like, how do we as creatives tied into marketing and advertising and media, how do we create a podcast? How do we properly set up our live streams? How do we measure our sound for quality? How do we light in a way that our audience, right, is receptive and they want to stay tapped in? How do we get headshots? How do we work with a photographer? So we've been talking about putting a series of creative workshops together, both for the creators as well as for the business owners, because they have to marry. Their relationships have to be built so that we have. So basically, we end up coming out with the products that we really want, and that they have impact. I talk about a lot of times. I think every business needs a really quality video. And what I've also learned in this process, and we teach this now too, is every business has a video. Now they're like, what do we do with it? Right? Now I've got this thing and it tells this story, but where do I share it? Do I put it on my website? Do I just throw it on YouTube? Do I have a budget to put it in Hulu ad campaign, or can I send it to my local television station or regional television station?
Yes.
And the other part of that is when you're going into these creations as well, sometimes we have to know what the end result, the end use is going to be, Because if you come in here and you shoot something on your iPhone and it's not to a certain standard, is the television station going to accept it?
Right.
Is the sound good
Right.
enough? And then how do we use all these different things to increase awareness and sales as well? And so we're gonna put all that together in a few workshops in the fall. And so I think I don't know if we ink these in, so you forgive me. I think it's great that you're the one who has the baby, but I can't remember nothing. And I remember my wife when she was pregnant, she talked about having baby brain.
Yes, like brain
Pregnancy
fog.
brain,
a little bit,
yeah.
like,
But I keep asking you like, hey, when are we doing this? But yeah, we're gonna do these in the fall, and we're doing these as a series. So I'm interested as well as what do listeners or people who are watching, what do they want to learn in that relationship, so that we can make sure that there's significant impact there. So we've got a couple comments.
Yeah.
You want to see?
Yeah.
So we've got a couple comments coming in through the chat. Let me blow this up for us real quick. So
Hey, Tiffany, if
we
you're
can see
still
this.
on.
And I just made it disappear. Anitra said she wanted to do the workshop. So while I'm doing this, do me a favor. Tell people, what website do they go to? Where do they go?
Yes. So to get connected and to stay tuned about our upcoming workshops, the first one is on June 22nd, and you can go ahead and register for that at thepresleypost.com and take advantage of our early bird special. Again, that offer ends April 15th. And yeah, we'll keep you posted. We'll be doing more live streams to kind of get engaged with you all and learn more about what you want to learn about and that sort of thing. That way, again, these workshops were curated based off of, me being open down here for the past 3 years and really connecting and engaging with so many different entrepreneurs that come through the space and hearing like their pain points and areas that they need help with. And so that's why these workshops were put together, just really to tailor to the community and what our needs are in certain stages of business development. So yeah, if you're tuned in right now and have any questions, Miguel's the marketing and digital content creator expert. I'm just here to help bring forth the accessibility for this information. So,
You're the curator of people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I create content and drive strategy and design and that the people use. But you as a real estate agent and the co-op, the co-working space, you're curating people and you're putting people in a space and giving them opportunity to really grow and expand. And so I think it's a great opportunity that in your community, right, your community within the co-working space, you're saying, hey, here's opportunity.
Yes, got to advocate for the community.
Yes, and then our community at large, you're saying, hey, you can also participate in this, right? So if you're not part of the co-working space, step in, tap in, and let us help you grow your business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a big part of like skill building. Again, some of the workshops you were mentioning, you described a little earlier, like we have so many photographers that do, and I want to be able to share space with even more photographers. But even if you are new to the business or to the is it a trade?
Well, it can be a trade. It can be a craft.
Okay.
Industry.
Yes, to the industry.
It's all the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm using the right terminology here. But studio lighting, all these different ways that you can really perfect your craft,
Absolutely.
master your craft.
And I'll speak to, I guess, our entry level, our new business photographers, right? So you watch YouTube all the time and you hear, hey, take this class. I'm a 6-figure photographer, or I'm a 7-figure photographer. And I get to say that, right? I'm a 6-figure PR firm that is a published photographer, have been, and for probably 20 years. I have several short documentaries that are in film festival. We've shot anything from regional commercials to local commercials. We do reels, speaker reels, not reels on Instagram. I do those too. But reels in the sense that when speakers or actors or talent needs to go out into the world and share who they are, there's companies who edit reels in that sense, right? And so, but if you want professionally done edited reels for your social media campaigns as well. So yeah, I think the opportunity to teach and share the knowledge that I've been able to accumulate. I think the other space for that too is I teach because I learn more when I do teach. I tell people all the time, if you really want to know what you know, try to teach somebody it.
Exactly.
Right. So if you're a new creator, if you're a new creator in this new creative industry in this space, come hang out with us. I was just having a conversation with my guy Tony, who's got a studio in New Albany, and we were talking about how we monetize. And I thought it was really interesting that we have two different ways that we monetize our businesses and we monetize our content. And then there's a whole nother level of ways that we could be doing it as well. And so when we get into these rooms and we start educating ourselves and we start corresponding with each other and building environment, we can do that more successfully. Mm-hmm. So whether you're a videographer, if you're real estate, if you own a restaurant, and if you're saying, hey, I got a food truck and I want to expand. If I'm a coffee house, shout out to Brew and Sip because it's my favorite coffee place. But, if you want to expand, you're looking at multiple locations. There's a lot of things that you want to look at and you want to measure as you're growing your business. And so marketing and sales, for me, is where you start with that.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've been streaming here for about 21 minutes. We said we was going to kind of keep it quick, concise. This was a teaser. Do you think we teased the people enough?
I think so. Let's see.
So we've got a few comments. Holly Hartman, what's going on? What does she say? Know how I can support you all in this endeavor. I think it is needed, and I celebrate you all. Let's go. So for people who want to support, I'll tell you a couple of ways because we talked about this. We haven't lit the match yet. But we talked about getting some sponsors and seeing if we could do some unique giveaways to whoever who is registering. So if people out there have a unique business or, maybe a restaurant or maybe you have a unique product and you're looking to get in front of a new audience, this may be the space for that as well. And then really sharing the word, right? There's, we can only reach so many people. And I mean, you've got a nice network. I've got a nice network. But I think sharing with the people out of our network is equally more important, right? Share this with someone who can benefit. If you're a larger corporation, so the program that I teach for GLI is free for the entrepreneurs if you can get through the pathway, which is a series of interviews. However, GLI pays for that, right? And so, if someone out there, if you're a corporation or you're a larger size business and you want to sponsor somebody into this, that'd be a great opportunity as well, right? Invest into someone and give them opportunity to do what they haven't done before.
Yes, definitely. And before we hop off of here, I do have one question for you, Miguel. And I guess I'll share a little bit about my entrepreneur journey to tie into this as well. Because, we just had the Facebook and Instagram blackout or whatever like a week or so ago. And I would say I definitely used all the free tools that I could in building my business. A lot of my business and members have come in due to word of mouth, but we put ourselves out there like on Facebook and on Instagram. Like I almost solely use those platforms for business purposes. But when you have something like the blackout that happened, or if social media just goes away, how do you continue to connect and engage with like your customers? I want people to be able to think outside of these networks because again, it's you always want to use the free tools, but you also have to think creatively and how you can rely on yourself as
Absolutely.
A business owner.
So, thank you for sharing that. I'll share this too, right? So, I've always asked myself that question because before we started using social media, we didn't rely on social media.
Exactly.
And
when were those times? I can't even remember.
Right. They were there. They existed. But it wasn't until I got digitally erased and hacked that I started thinking about I'm relying on tools and gatekeepers who can decide whether I get to exist in a space.
Yes.
Right. And so when we think about social media, we have to realize that social media is just one tool in our tool bag. Right. And so or our tool chest, whatever you want to call it. I think a lot of businesses. So let's start with your service industry and your B2B, and you want to target corporations. I think a lot of times, your local chamber of commerce can be a source for you, right? They have access to investors. They have access to larger corporations. I think you have to, as a business, know what you want, and then that way you can approach those type of organizations and then make your ask or demand for a thing. I think the other part to that is there are a lot of trade shows, there are industry trade shows, there are sometimes community trade shows and matchmaking programs. So getting attached to your community, your entrepreneurial community, and seeing how you can benefit there as well. The other piece,
So getting out and networking.
yeah, networking is key. Better yet, understanding how to network is even more important. Right. So a lot of people go out and collect business cards. A lot of people will go out and put their name in a database. Now, understand the people who create the database own it. The question is, how are you quickly building a relationship with someone who wants to do business with you at that point, right? Because people do business with people. People work for people. And sometimes whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or you're both, we have these habits that really are not successful in the world of networking.
Right.
And so I think it's important that we learn to network, and then we do network. And it's not about networking everywhere.
Right.
It's about being even strategic and specific in those steps as well. And a lot of that, again, is about marketing and sales, relationship building. Whether it's in B2G, B to government is a little bit different because now you have to go through all these different protocols and you got to jump through a lot of hoops to get there. But you can build relationship there as well. Now, if you are a retailer and you're talking about I have to develop relationships with the consumer, there is a way to approach that, right? And you're really relying on imagery. You're really relying on message. You're really relying on your customer service. If you're a brick and mortar space, how people feel and what the experience is when they're journeying in and out of your space. If you're online, you have to think about accessibility, how easy it is to navigate your website, how easy it is for the person to check out. And then in some ways, post, right? What happens after we complete a sale? How do we continue that relationship? How do we communicate with that ongoing customer? And so there's a thing, and I don't know if we'll go through this in the workshop, but there's a thing I teach in one of my larger classes, and it's the ladder of loyalty. And it is the steps of how you start at the beginning of the foundation of your marketing and sales platform, right, in terms of how you're looking for a customer versus how you turn them into raving fans. And just real quick, right, so if you're prospecting, everybody understands how you go out there and you look for oil. I mean, not oil. Well, oil too. You dig in the ground and hope something pops up. Oil, gold, whatever. You're prospecting, right? These are people, you haven't even found a person. They're not even interested. You got to build it. But how do we take them from zero and get to a raving fan? And a raving fan is not a word of mouth referral, but these are customers or people who love what you do so much that they bring you business. They begin to sell for you, right? And so there's a whole journey and a theology, if I can use the word theology, around that.
Yes.
And so I do teach that as well. And then there are different frameworks for marketing that people use. And so I usually will show some of the different pieces in that sense, right? So whether you're talking about the traditional 4 Ps of marketing, or if you're talking about, there's a coffee concept or a coffee bean, I forget what it is, that has a different strategy for marketing. So there's different frameworks, and usually I'll sit back and I'll look at which ones I'm going to use and introduce people to that gives them an idea. So regardless of what industry you're in, I've had the benefit of being I interned as a reliability engineer with Delphi, so I'm aging myself a little bit. I started out in fashion retail, and so when I got out of restaurant hospitality business in undergrad, I started working for Claire's. Claire's bought a division called Mr. Rags. Doesn't exist anymore. But they went from they bought it from a company out of Seattle. Long story short, they launched it from one store to 350 stores across the nation. And that is when I guess the U.S. really got an introduction to some of the hip hop brands like Sean John, Mark Echo, Fat Farm, Rockaware, et cetera, because they existed in certain pockets in the East Coast, but they weren't really global at that point. And we were one of the retailers that helped launch them. And so I was part of that journey. And then I hit a tornado and we've landed here in Louisville, the region, and I became vice president of a promotional marketing company before I went out on my own. So in that sense, I have really what I consider a general vast knowledge of business as a whole, which allows me to help different people.
Dope.
So I hope I answered your question. I know it was a long answer.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thanks to those who have been loyal to the Presley Post and sending business our way, like how you mentioned earlier, that loyalty ladder ladder of loyalty.
Yes. However you want to, how you want to phrase it.
I just want to let y'all know that I appreciate y'all. Pregnancy, brain
fog. Yes, let's go.
Postpartum fog.
Postpartum fog? Is that a new phrase or is that a real phrase?
That's a new phrase that I came up with. I don't know. It may be a real thing.
All right, we got to give Jasmine credit. So y'all go out and start TikToking postpartum fog.
Right. This is the first live stream of the year, though. This is dope. I haven't, I feel like been on a stream or a podcast or what have you in like years. I used to have a podcast of my own, and I keep saying I'm gonna start showing up and going live and do more of that. So
here we are. We got another live scheduled.
Yes.
And next month.
Yep.
So next month we're gonna come over. Maybe we'll organize that one a little different. Might have some goodies if you tap into the live stream that we're gonna do. So we're currently in March. So if you're enjoying March Madness, we're gonna walk into April giveaways. That's what we'll call it. March Madness, April giveaways. Yeah, so if you tune in, we'll create a little contest and how they can go to the Presley Post and maybe collect.
Yeah, sounds good.
Got to get it good. I love it.
Yep.
All right, good people. Well, look, we're going to wrap up this live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it. This is a Wednesday. It's hump day. I hope you go out. It's a
pretty day.
It is. Go get some ice cream. Hold somebody's hand.
Yeah.
Have some fun. And we'll see you in April. And then also, once we wrap up this post, we'll throw some QR codes and some additional web addresses so that you can get involved in our June network.
Yep. Sounds good.
Got to get it good,
people.
Thanks for
tuning in, y'all.
Absolutely. Talk to you.
Peace.